Welcome everybody to the second book in the book club. This book right here is a well-known book, a book that the majority of people have heard about even if they haven't read the book. But it's a book that I feel as though it had a positive impact on my life. That book is Think and Grow Rich. Now, I'm sure you can go online, especially through YouTube, and find many different reviews on this book. I feel as though I feel as though that the reviews do it justice. You have positive reviews about the book. You also have negative reviews about the book. Negative reviews on Napoleon Hill himself, who wrote the book. I came to find out later on that a lot of the things that were talked about in the book were gone over in an earlier book written, which we are going to go over later on down the line. But for right now, that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a book that helped change my life. And so for right now, I'm going to go over it with you. Now, there are three things that to me, this book really says. And personally, the three things are in, the thumbnail that you look at. Is you think, you feel, and you act. Now, obviously, think is in the title of the book, Think and Grow Rich. You heard me say it often. It's written in the Word of God. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And that's just the way that it is. The beginning part of what you do is how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself. And I feel like this book helps get into that. It talks about many things. It talks about getting over your fears, which I feel as though is a great deal. And I feel like it's an obstacle that people have in their mind because, fear is just false evidence appearing real, but it's nothing true about it. Oftentimes we are afraid or nervous about things happen, or we filled with worry. The worry doesn't fix the problem. It just magnifies the problem. When we can focus our mind and change the way that we think about a situation, about a particular person, about a job that we have, about a conversation that we have to have, well, that is what changes our life. That's the beginning portion of it, though. It doesn't end. Like, you can't just sit around and think, oh, I'm going to be rich, oh, I'm going to be rich, do all of these affirmations and expect it to happen. That doesn't work that way. It's not designed to work that way. That's just a small portion of it. The other part that isn't talked about much in any of the reviews, but I'll talk about it in this review, is the grow. Now, in order to grow something, you have to plant something. So the ideas that you're thinking about, that you're planting in the garden of your mind, it has to be positive ones, right? It has to be ones full of growth. It has to be ones that are driven towards growth. So what I think about got to be positive. In order to grow, I got to plant positive seeds. Now, as I'm planting all these positive seeds, the truth of that I can achieve the things that I desire, whether it be money, a nice house, whatever it may be. The one thing that's in growing that isn't talked about is action. Like, you can sit up here and think of all of these great ideas and all of these inventions and all of these business ideas that are going to get you rich. And then you sit and you watch someone else come out with it. And then you say to yourself, man, I thought of that idea first. But at the end of the day, you thought of the idea, but there was no action behind it. And that's where the grow part comes in. I like to look at the grow part as action. So you got to take action behind the thought. And you got to believe in yourself. And that's where the feeling comes in it. And I believe these are the three, I would say, cornerstones of this book: thinking, feeling, and acting. And it talks about many other things. One great thing that it talks about is it talks about, working together, a mastermind. I feel like that's really important. And I feel like even me in sales, that's a place where I failed, because I didn't build the proper network around me. I didn't build the proper mastermind around me. Had I done that, then, and had I done it more efficiently, rather, because I've done it, but had I done it more efficiently, I would have had way better results. I thought about doing it, but the actions didn't align up with it. And that's why people tend to have negative views towards certain books like this, because you read it and you say think and grow rich, and you don't understand how the language, how it was so much more action behind people's words, and how much it was so much more behind how people felt about the things that they said back when this book was written. At the same time, you got to have somebody that you can build with, bounce ideas off of. A lot of times the people that you're bouncing these ideas off of might say things and you might go, oh my goodness, I don't even agree with that. But then you might have to go with it because it might be better for the overall result of what you and that individual is working to achieve and working to strive for. Mastermind is one of the great things that this book talks about. Now, I want to also get into one other thing, the iterations. Now, I would just say, I like listening to books. We talked about this. I feel like when you listen to the book, you can absorb the information better. This is just me personally. If you can absorb it better reading it, then get the paperback book, the newest edition, and read it. The newest edition is always updated to align with the current times. But when you listen to it, you can listen to it on YouTube. Here's one of the many channels that you can look at it on. And I would say do it. It's about 10 hours. So do it like twice a week. And if you could do it while you're sleeping, do it while you're sleeping. But the main important thing about this is if there is anything that you strive for, if there is anything that you're going for in life, make sure that you're putting action behind all of it. That's the only way you can grow. You can sit up here and think about it, and you can even desire it. And that means you have the thought and the feeling, but without the action behind anything. You got to act. And that's where the grow portion comes into. So you got to think and then grow, and then you're rich. If you think poor about yourself, then you're going to be poor. If you think that you're no good, then you're going to be no good. And this book is a book that I read every so often. Another part of the iterations I would suggest is like maybe once a year, go back to the book just to go over it, just to review it, see your process, see your progress. And from that point, you can see how you've actually grown. One thing I could say right now in life, I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I can thank God that I'm a lot further than I was. Yes, I can. But that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. Think and Grow Rich. Listen to the book. Don't forget the iterations. Twice a week is good to listen to it. And twice while you sleep is a week is good when you listen to it. Next month, I will be seeing you in regards to the next book that we're going to talk about. It is another Napoleon Hill book, but I'm not going to get into the title right now. But I feel like it's a very good book, and there's a specific way to read it as opposed to the standard way of reading it. So if you have any other questions, concerns, funny stories, anything you'd like to add, feel free to add it into the comments. If you like what I had to say, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you dislike what I say, make sure you write dislike in the comments, and you can even timestamp it the way you dislike it. And may everyone have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good evening.